Hi, and thanks for downloading our 5th podcast. I'm Raj. My background's in film, design, media, and tech.
And I'm Mike, and you may know me from startup growth, advocating for an open government, and currently having a cold all over the internet.
You're here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech or media in New Zealand. We have a great show for you today, and later we'll be talking to Steve Graham from Act On Insight about government, tech, innovation, and how to get things done.
Episode 5. So let's get into it before I fall over.
Call Plus buys Orcon. Orcon joins the Call Plus family, which includes Slingshot and Flip, which now have 15% of the market share in New Zealand with over 220,000 customers. They have over 500 staff and turnover in excess of 200 million. As well as taking out a competitor, this gives Call Plus the might to take on the big players in the market.
We might even get some good internet, you never know. Kiwi students set for 2014 Microsoft Imagine Cup World Finals. 4 Auckland University students who designed a mobile social interaction app, there's quite a few of those to be fair, have been selected to compete in the Microsoft Imagine Cup World Finals. This is an annual event that Kiwis do really well, and as Nigel Parker from Microsoft says, New Zealand has punched above its weight, placing in the top 10 in the world 4 times in the last 5 years.
Jeez.
So, good luck Hayden, Jason, Chris and Derek, and the MEEP product as they pit themselves against 33 other teams for the $50,000 prize in Seattle next month.
That's amazing. NZ tech jobs under threat under a secret trade agreement? You ever heard of the Financial Services Annex of Secret Trade and Services Agreement? I don't think I have.
Is
Have you?
that TISA?
That's exactly right.
That's what I'll
Well done. Well, it's a secret trade agreement which New Zealand is known to be participating in, and it allows banks and financial service providers to freely utilise temporary, and quotation marks, IT workers, potentially making life difficult for contractors and those seeking full-time employment. This could also change the rules relating to data sovereignty and the need to locally store data. This was brought to light via WikiLeaks, who posted content about, so we have to keep an eye on this in the next coming weeks and months. For more details, I'd look at Bill Bennett's blog on billbennett.co.nz.
Well done. Take 3. You got through it, mate.
I got it there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a good idea. Banks can store their data wherever they want, as opposed to having to put it in New Zealand.
Sure.
But I'm going to check out Bill's comments and see what he says.
Yeah, I'm worried about how it will affect the industry in terms of work.
Yeah, I don't
jobs.
quite understand that.
Yeah. So I don't think there's enough being let out yet, or people are still digesting all the information off WikiLeaks.
That's good to know it's actually happening. That's the thing, isn't it? Cheers, buddy. Hey, you're an innovative person, aren't you?
Yeah, why yes?
Oh, yes. Then get an award for it. Innovators.org.nz. This is aims to celebrate innovative, high growth, I don't know what that means, New Zealand organisations and put them on a national stage to give them a darn good shout out. So they want Kiwi innovators and organisations that have invested in developing new products, services and ventures. This is an adventure, isn't it?
It's a venture.
Yeah.
Hey, we could be up for one of these.
We should go for it, mate. As well as improving the performance of their people and teams. Not sure about that today. If that's you, get along to their website, innovators.org.nz. Some news from our beloved DIA. They've unleashed its cloud email.
Unleashed?
Unleashed. It's a bit late. The ever-controversial but finger on the pulse, Ian Appley, has his views on the DIA finally releasing the government cloud. And guess what they've managed to achieve for over 3 years' work? Email and calendaring.
Oh, I can get that for free right now on various cloud platforms.
I know. So if you're using, Google Apps, Microsoft Office 365, or even Telecom's dire Yahoo email, know that the New Zealand government is finally catching up. As Ian points out, it's not even a cheap, simple service that government agencies would be mad not to use. Man alive, sometimes I wonder about the workers in the New Zealand government IT. Google releases resources for modern web development. They've just put up a whole new microsite for all the web devs looking to deliver top-notch sites, and particularly optimised for the mobile. Look, if you're an old hand at this, but to be honest, who's an old hand at this? The original iPhone only came out 7 years ago. But if you are, then there's still pop along to this, as there's nuggets in the resources. But if you're a student or looking to upskill yourself, this is an excellent resource. And you want to be doing this because, of course, as we always say, there's not enough developers in New Zealand. So get along to developers.google.com/web/fundamentals.
And that's all the news you need to know this week.
Are we on?
We're on.
I'll keep going then.
Go on then.
A new section, events. Look, there's a lot of tech events happening around the country, And here at Access Granted, we're building up a resource to share with you. But in the meantime, check out these for this week.
Well, I went to a few quiet yarns this week, down at Brewhouse in the Wellington area. There's a local bar in Wellington. It's organised by Ryan Ashton, who also organises an Auckland event. Ryan describes it as a distinctly Kiwi-style ICT business networking event, focusing on building personal relationships by being social. Having a quiet beer does help it as well. There were a mixture of people there from tech and digital media. He wants to make this a regular event, so keep an eye on LinkedIn and Eventbrite for the next one. It was a fun night.
Excellent stuff. The Wellington SharePoint user group meeting. They've got theirs coming this Wednesday, actually, so the day after you listen to this. It's from 12:30 to 1:30 at the Microsoft offices, which are on level 12, 157 Lambton Quay in Wellington. Also in Auckland on the same day, they're talking Agile. The Agile meetup is a second look at the product ownership, and that's being held at 5:30 on Wednesday, the 25th, held at Spend Vision's offices, and they're located at level 6, AECOM, AECOM House 8, Mahuhu Crescent, Auckland.
Well done, Mike.
Thank you.
Epic NZ have a conference here in Wellington. It'll bring together the capital's dynamic ethnic, Māori and wider business community to network, connect and share knowledge. Success stories will also feature, with a special focus on Grow Wellington, including high-value manufacturing services and ICT and digital. It's a half-day event on Thursday, the 26th of June. For more details, check out epicnz.co.nz.
Excellent. And finally, for all you Linux and open source people like me, you'll be getting your papers ready for the LCA 2015 conference. It's on the 12th to the 16th of January next year, 2015, in Auckland. Go to lca2015.linux.org.au, and that's the events we have. Interview time. This is an excellent interview with Steve Graham from Act on Insight, Hunchbuzz, and Signal 41. This is actually our edited version of a brilliant interview. We'll also put up the full version on #me, and it's well worth listening to. Steve, do you want to just give us a quick précis of where you're from and what's happening now?
Okay, well, you can tell by the accent I'm a native Kiwi, or want to be native Kiwi. When I was recently back in the States, and people say, "What do you do?" And it would have been real easy to say, if I was a doctor or a teacher, people like that. But so I said I'm into porn. I make porn. Because I figured it was the easiest thing to say, and then people are always interested.
That's all right, no,
He's saying I do porn.
I've never seen
it's always,
before,
and I'm like, honey, you ain't got a shot. I would never say that, especially recorded. No, but because it was too hard to explain. It really was, and still it is today, so I try to stay away from it. But I think 5 years ago, after resigning from the corporate gig, I took my family off and my kids, and we went backpacking through South America for 6 months. I thought that's a good way to come back to Wellington, because I did my last gig up in Auckland. And so when I came back for the first time, I had the courage probably to do my own thing, really kind of chase my bliss in a way, like I kind of feel like I kind of always did my own thing, but you can't only do your own thing so much when you work in the corporate environment. Yeah. And the way I kind of look at the analogy is the fishing nets. So when you work for a corporate environment, they say, okay, you can go fish within the nets, but you're like, hold on, man, there's a whole bunch of fish over there, like not within the nets. You got to stay within the nets. That's the rule. So finally, when I came back, I had the courage to do my own thing. So I started a consultancy called Act on Insight, and they created a product called The Insider. So my customers are New Zealand Post, Inland Revenue, DIA, NZTA, NBIE. And basically it's around foresight. It's that emergent future. So for me, that's really exciting in terms of where this emergent future. And as I started doing the emergent future, of course, I start seeing more opportunities and things to do. So I start building, I've got a company called I Love New Zealand that's kind of failed, but I'm proud of failure. So they say you need failure. Come talk to me. So I spent a lot of money and got nothing from it, but I got this 500,000 person base, and I'm working with a couple of young guys, that are kind of redeveloping. Yeah. So and then so I'm like, well, hold on. The real future is around open innovation, online innovation, right, and tapping into the community. So I built a product called Hunchbuzz. Again, with some young guys, right? And
here, those guys are based here in Wellington?
Yeah, one guy was down in Otago, and he's come back up. Yeah, the lead developer. Yeah. He's about 21. He's been developing since he's been 12, but just some real kick-ass development. I went to one of the senior guys, in fact, on that story. One of the senior guys within the industry here, you know who he is. And I said, can you check out this code? You know, because this guy's a young guy, he's 20, you know, and it's kind of critical. He said that's gold-plated.
Wow.
The code you're getting from a 20-year-old, you know, it just blew me away. So you can get that kind of stuff from a 20-year-old, 22-year-old, you know. It's like you don't need to pay a prima donna 50-year-old guy with an attitude. Respect to those guys, don't get me wrong, but you can find it elsewhere. Anyway, so HunchBuzz was, I really saw the feature. I've got a couple customers, you know, but again, I've found something else bigger and better. And so right now I'm on this other thing called Signal 41, which is really around optimization and simulation, really, and it's around, helping organizations really understand multi-channel delivery based on kind of human behaviors. So we've taken, this gets into, I'm going to stop now because it kind of goes in a wrong direction where everyone says, screw this, I'm turning this off. This is boring.
No. We'll talk about porn again later on. There's more porn later, don't worry.
True. This enables people to get the best porn from the right channel.
And that's what the internet was invented for, right?
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
Exactly. That's how we realize that they say sex sells, so we got all this stuff on the covers and stuff. No, but the reality is based on, there's a whole bunch of qualitative data that around design thinking, which is really becoming the norm. You go in any government department, any organization, they're doing this kind of design thinking because this end-to-end service is really critical.
Yeah.
Customer centricity is. Anyway, we take all that qualitative information, we turn it into quantifiable information, 0, 1, 1 stuff, and then we take it and we start to simulate the actual environment in terms of a multi-channel, the way that you deliver a service.
Yeah. And
then we look at, okay, now let's run some what-if scenarios. Let's compare against the baseline. What if, for example, government, right now, by 2017, they're going to deliver 70%, many governments, online. That's their goal. Well, some of these organizations today, it's 17. So what's the impact if we did? What does that look like? Where are the bottlenecks? Who are our challenging kind of segmentation or personas that we're up against? So anyway, we built this government. We've sold it to several government departments. We're super excited about it because we've got international interest now in terms of investment. So we're going to hit this one out of the park. Man. I was going to say, you're like, we don't want to talk about Rod Drew. We want to talk about Signal.
Excellent. So to do that, currently, so the guy you're talking about, the 22-year-old that came from Dunedin, was that just a find out of nowhere, or did you have to go looking for that person?
Yeah, no, we went online and we looked. So my other business partner, in terms of starting that, I think he's probably 25, 27, so he was, middle-aged.
Yeah.
So he kind of knew. The guy's amazing in terms of online digital stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's from that environment. So I think what I realized, and I think other organizations realized, is particularly these younger people, that it's just who they are. It's how they've lived their life in terms of that online world. Those kind of idiosyncrasies that maybe other generations don't get, they do.
Yeah.
And so I think we tapped into the right resource, right? And so we found this guy from Otago. Eventually, he did remotely a lot of development. Now he's come in. Now he's part of the company. So it's kind of worked out. He's he's a pretty remarkable developer. But I guess going back to that kind of youth thing, it's like the dude's been developing. He's 20, 22 now. He's had 10 years of experience.
So just on his thing, because a lot of what I hear about, particularly in Wellington, and we talked about it briefly before, and we've talked about it a million times, is that there's no developers. We're saying Xero's trying to suck people out of the UK and bring them here.
Yeah.
Is that still the case? Because government departments are full of these people doing .NET.
Yeah. So are there no developers? Is that your question?
Yeah.
No developers?
Do you think it's...
No, I don't. Look, I hear that a lot. There's not enough, but I just feel like there is. You'll figure out a way, to find that right talent to attract them, So particularly if you've got a valuable, a kind of pretty cool value proposition in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 other of our staff, and they're, all of them are, I think, under 23, 24. They're young guys, with not a lot of experience. Yeah. And the one thing is there's this parallel stuff they talk about, innovation and ideas really coming in organizations, and I think McKinsey is one of the big, did some research on it. there's a strong association with youth. You know, you want, because as we talked about, there's not the barriers to get in the way. No, we can't do it that way here. You know, they don't have that. They don't have that experience. So let's just do it this way, right? So no, in fact, I would have to say that they just don't know. Talking to a lot of government organizations, they know that they need youth. They need young people, new ways of thinking, new models. They do, but they're not quite certain how to go about it. Like Code for America. Have you heard of that program? You know, it's like, why not bring that concept here? Because that infusion of youth, that infusion of energy, you know, and I imagine if you're a younger person and you worked in one of these government departments, you should probably approach your senior manager and say, let's look at this thing different. Let's go. You talk about it. We talk about innovation, new ideas. Let's do some stuff different.
Yeah. So a lot of I mean, as you're talking, I was thinking that the talent's not there, and it could be because people are looking in the traditional places.
Yeah.
Whereas the talent is there.
The talent is
but
there.
they're doing their own thing in different ways, different places, and so, you know, you open the box now. There's no one here. It's like, well, because they're not in the box. They're everywhere else.
Exactly. Well, I think the concept of the talent is here concept, again, I see that as emerging in terms of that model change. The talent it's accessible for where I am in terms of I might go to Romania. They got some kick-ass mathematic guys, right? Or I might go to India, or I might go to California. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I might attract that kind of resource.
Yeah.
And in fact, they might even come over here, but if not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for us, for example, Signal 41, we know that, you know, we the guys that, you know, are kind of chief data scientists are physics guys, PhD guys and stuff. So we might tap that here, and there might be more somewhere else within New Zealand that, you know, through that network. We might have to go to Melbourne, you know, wherever that capability is, that cluster of that kind of capability, we might have to tap into that.
So you going back to that, you talked to the guy the young'un who's just been there for a year or two. He's in, I'm going to pick a ministry, the ministry of blah blah, and is hearing this and going, yeah, look, you know, I've tried that. I've tried to fish elsewhere. I can see that it's not working, but I don't feel comfortable about doing anything. I can't talk with my manager. I'm not making a difference. Is there anything you can say to that person who's now got these things stuck in their ears on Tuesday, rainy morning? Yeah. What would you say to them? Get out is what I'd say. Yeah,
I would say this. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say that. I would say leave.
Oh, okay.
So there's maybe a difference, but probably not. No, I mean, I guess the one thing that in terms of my own kids, right, is like I got the thing that really radiates within me and who I am is this concept of, it's a Joseph Campbell thing called follow your bliss. I mean, if you really want to get into the meaning of it, but there is that thing inside you that you know your pathway, you know what's right for you. You need to chase that thing, because the simple analogy is, so let's use a roundabout analogy. I come down a roundabout and I go down a pathway that's not me. Well, but maybe the money's better or whatever it is. Well, the reality is the further I go down the pathway, all the doors that open up are all the wrong doors because they're on the wrong pathway. Yeah. Now, if I step back and go down the pathway that's who I am, by the way, I'm a designer, so I need a design. Yeah. Well, I get a little experience the next door and the next door, and that are the right doors with the designer. And there's this concept of these kind of invisible hands that are kind of helping you along the way. Yeah. But I think as young people as well, it's that uncertainty. Yeah. At least I got a job. Well, back yourself. You'll get the right job in the next place. So I know it's easy for me to say, but I've got more, I've got experience, and then I'll pass on my father. It always gets better. It always works out. Yeah. But it's having the courage to live your life that way, because this is it. You got one shot at this thing. You don't want to have.
True. But it took you a while to step out of the corporate as well, to be fair. So.
Well, not really. So in terms of, I worked in Japan for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then I gave myself a 3-year holiday with no working at all. Yeah. So, I'm in and out. That's the corporate hippie thing kind of, So I balance it out. But, again, there's responsibility. So for me, I'm making choices. Like we all make choices. Now, for example, the person you talked about, this young developer at one of the government departments, if he's got 2 kids and his wife's staying at home, well, he needs to sort that out. If that's a priority, right? If he wants to live in government housing, and that's okay with his kids in a particular area, that's cool. But he's got to make that choice. Yeah. So for me, making the choice was, I was committed to have my partner being at home. I had 3 kids, watching that. So my responsibility was, I liked what I did. I got passionate about it. But there was another thing in terms of prioritization around, my kids and those choices that you make, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely not encouraging everyone tomorrow to go in and shut the door. But I am saying, think about what you're doing and almost create a plan. A lot of times I think when we do jobs, we've got those, are they called, what are they, horse blinders? The blinkers.
Yeah,
we got the blinkers on, right? But the reality is, it's not really, you're not making that next move. If you're doing, and it's cool, the corporate thing can be really cool, but you're thinking about, you want to be thinking about a little more foresight in terms of 10 years, where am I going, right? Not reacting to my next 12 months or whatever. So this may enable you to get somewhere else. You might have to do 6 months.
I find you start small if you're still in that corporate environment and you want to do something. If you're still a little bit fearful, or if you have other priorities, it makes sense just at least start something anyway on the side and get going. At least just starting it and doing it, right?
And there's nothing wrong with some of that experience. You get training, and there's a lot of positive things about the corporate. I'm not.
But see, that's right. You spend a bit of time there, and then build up your resource or your app or whatever you do.
Yeah.
Then you can take the leap once you're comfortable in it.
Yeah.
So at least you have a go. At least you start.
Yeah.
Some people don't even start, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And that's who they are. Not everyone is entrepreneurial. Yeah. Not everyone wants to do a startup. Not everyone has a product. I could be aspiring to be project manager at mid-level. Have a staff of 4 and enjoy life. Bingo.
Yeah, we all smiled when you said that, Steve. Well, that's not us, though. You're right. I mean, I know a close friend of mine, oldest friend I've had in New Zealand, and he is a brilliant program manager. Now, I look at that and think, shoot me now.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You talk about failures.
Shooting yourself.
No, I didn't try that. And I missed. I tried the program management stuff and in a government department very quickly went, this is not me, we're all suffering.
Yeah, no, that was a real disaster. I heard about that.
Yeah, and it's like, let's get out of here. Well, I'm sure everyone has. But he is brilliant at it. And the fact that he knows that and goes, this is me, and that's his passion. Yeah. He follows his best, and it took him a while to get there. But now he goes, I make a massive difference. Yeah. That for me is the thing. Yeah. Make a difference.
Yeah, and again, the key there is that is for you. And it could be what it is to anyone else.
True.
But the thing is, there's this concept, it did the rounds, it's called The Power of Pull. It's a pretty remarkable book. But there is this thing about attraction. Whatever you're attracted to, I'm not talking sexually right now, but I'm talking about career-wise, the power of pull. The magic happens because when you wake up and you're really into content management and whatever it is, well, if you're doing that every day, wow, you do anything with passion, you're going to make it happen. Yeah. It's finding that thing that really attracts you. Getting on the path that says, not going through the motion. I mean, what a dreadful way to live your life, doing 8 hours, 10 hours every day of something I hate, looking up at the clock. Yeah. Don't do that, man. Get out.
If you're clock watching it, it's time to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You've been in Wellington how long now?
Well, I've been in New Zealand for about 15 years, 16, and I did a 3-year stint in Auckland. When I left, I was in Wellington, and then I left, and then I kind of had a party, I had a party. It was interesting. I had a party, and built into my new contract for my new employer was that party, right? And then when it was signed off by the CFO, she was like, "Why are we paying this?" I said, "Because it's part of my contract." It was nice. I mean, it was a band. It was the whole thing. It was like, and drinks and everything else. I negotiated out of my contract. It was part of my relocation costs. But I left. I went to Auckland for 3 years. But I said I knew I was coming back because Wellington there's a certain vibe in Wellington that is who I am. Probably more Northern California. There's a certain soul about Wellington as opposed to Auckland was this kind of urban sprawl. So when I told people I'm coming back, there's like, nah, it ain't gonna happen. People don't go to Auckland and come back. I'm like, I'm coming back. Yeah. And I'm back.
You did via South America.
Via South America, why not? If you're go via somewhere, you may as well. I could have gone via Dunedin or Gore, but I decided South America. Respected Dunedin Gore anyway.
So the big question, and you haven't been there a while, is could you see the way you are and also the business that you've set up, could you do the same in Auckland?
Could I do the same in Auckland? That's a good question. Well, I got to back myself. I could do the same anywhere, right? So I don't know if there's more to the question. There's what's the nuance of the Wellington market? The nuance is the network, right? There's a certain kind of there's easier access. There's a certain kind of there's a playing field here and your reputation, so people know who you are. So you get into places and the process is smoother if you've been around and people know who you are. So I would think, for example, so I think for me opening doors and doing the pitch and stuff like that has been easier in Wellington. I think that's the kind of market it is versus Auckland. But in terms of, if we're talking about from a startup point of view, you have a great kick-ass idea, I'd have to say, although I'm North American, my contacts are, you're going to go North America, or even NZTE. NZTE is saying, go to Australia. There's a lot more money. Yeah. So the reality is, if you need the money, it's, out of respect, it's not here. Yeah. But there's a lot of ideas. I say here in New Zealand. Yeah. Fair enough, right? They're throwing money at stuff overseas in terms of particular areas like big data, predictive analytics, service design stuff. There's money out there.
And that's not the first time I've heard that the ideas are generated here. I mean, I'm from Britain. A long time they talked about, the Americans and the Japanese were making everything. Yeah. And we were a country of inventors. Yeah. It's that self-image thing. And it seems to me that's and they don't use the word inventor here, but we use the word entrepreneur, startups. And it's like, the ideas start here, but for them to grow, or you have to sell the idea, or you have to go somewhere else. Yeah. Is that true? I mean, then you go zero.
Yeah. Well, zero is an exception, right? Rod Drury had a track record. Only Rod Drury could have pulled off what Rod Drury pulled off, right? So I guess my view is I'm a native Californian. I'm an outsider coming in, but I've lived in Japan for 3 years, overseas. So what I admire about kind of the Kiwi ethos is around that number 8 wire concept. Because back in the day, let's go 250 years ago, you had to fix it yourself. Yeah. No one's, a boat will be there in 3 months to fix your tractor. Yeah. I better figure it out. But so one of the things, so there is that kind of heritage, but more importantly, the thing I think, and this is what I love, I'm a traveler, man. I'm, the corporate hippie thing. I did a 3-year, a real OE. I wasn't working, just traveling. But one of the reasons I want to raise my kids in New Zealand is that OE is part of the vernacular, right? People travel here. Yeah. So what does travel do? It gives you a rich perspective of the world. So my kind of view is that I think that those that travel are typically a lot more creative, right? Because they see a world and a different concepts. It's not just, here I am from this small suburban town in the Midwest of the U.S. and I've always lived there my life. The Kiwis have this kind of travel thing, and they go away and they kind of see the world. Oh, if I'm in a meeting and I say, who's been to India? And there's 25 people. It could be half of them put their hands up. Yeah. Same thing if I go to the States and it's like, where is that? Respect to Americans. Because I'm sure those stories. Yeah. So I think there is a lot to that whole creative thing. Yeah. I just don't think we harness it well in New Zealand.
So, last question. From New Zealand tech scene, and particularly the corporate, and I suppose we will be thinking of the Wellington. Yeah. Are you, in the next 5 years, are you optimistic that change will happen? Or do you see us having this conversation again in 5 years going, if only the young people would do something?
Oh, yeah, so I'm optimistic, full stop, always. So I'm not giving anything away there in terms of any insights. But I think the challenge is getting more, let's say from a Wellington perspective. Yeah. For me, for it to be successful is I think there needs to be integration between government, because it's a big employer, the city maybe as a facilitator, potentially some of the universities, right? The whole ecosystem, right? The corporates here, which are kind of satellite, but the more you creating an ecosystem where those new ideas and those new concepts, there's ways for those, then I think you're onto something, because that is something that I think, like I said, there's a lot of that in Wellington. I mean, you're talking to these guys. Yeah. There's a lot of young guys around here with some talent and some good concepts and things like that. Now, if we had a better ecosystem to prove those things more rapidly, that would be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of this stuff will be probably cloud-based anywhere. So the advantage in terms of New Zealand is we don't need those big teams to go internationally deploy everything. We can do things. I mean, New Zealand really could be super innovative and super successful with a whole bunch of zero-like organizations. Yeah. Because with the cloud, being able to deploy this stuff. But I think, and really, it means that I think we need to be aligned together, that real ecosystem of doing stuff, and we got to get our egos out of the way. There's some organization think they're running the show and they're not doing anything. It's how to drive that will be. I think that's the key. If we can figure out how to do that, wow.
Awesome. I agree.
That's my homework assignment
this
week. Is trying to figure that out.
Well, you got 5 years. You got to start making it happen. But in 5 years, it's got to be successful because I'll find you both.
And it'll be on here.
Yeah, hold on, back in June
back the evidence.
2014.
Yeah.
You said that's my homework. Well, you haven't done it.
Yes. I'm working on a few things.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much, Steve. Now, where can people find you online? Your companies.
Yeah, well, I do the .com thing. You go to actoninsight.com. You go to hunchbuzz.com. You go to signal41.com. You go to ilovenz.co.nz. Why would you really go .com? Although I think I have the .com too. And if anyone has a great idea in terms of what you do with 500,000, we got a 500,000 Facebook fan base.
Wow.
In terms of you got some, amazing idea, give me a shout.
Get in touch.
Yeah, get in touch.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate
It's been great.
Cheers. Been nice. Thanks.
Remember, everyone, that was the edited version, and the full version is also up now.
Great interview. Hey, look, we've talked a lot about innovation this episode, and Trent McEnloe on Twitter asked why we can't be as awesome as Chile. Your homework, people, is to Google the following: Chile, Washington Post innovation. Read the article and advocate for similar. And the link is in the show notes for the lazy. Quick shout out to everybody else who's been helping us. Shout out to Steve, of course. All those listening, and particularly those sharing our tweets, our Facebook updates, and Google Plus posts. We really, really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Also, apologies to Ian Appley. I pronounced his name Appleby last week, and that wasn't cool. Also, a quick plug for Bits of Awesome, another podcast on our #Me network. It talks about retro gaming with Fid McAwesome. You can find that on our #Me website.
And as always, don't take our jibber jabber as gospel. Get all the links to the stories we reference in our show notes. All the notes are in one place, and they're linked from the #Me post when the podcast goes live on a Tuesday.
Look for Mike at Miramar Mike on Twitter, and myself at NZRaj. Follow the podcast on @RadioNZ, and use the #AccessGranted, or email us on accessgranted at #me.co.nz. For more #goodness, go to the #me.co.nz website.
Thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday with the Kiwi Tech News for those who make the computers do what they do. Oh, are we done? Can we go back to bed
off
now?
You go. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Grab a whiskey on your way out.
Oh.
#me.co.nz